Chapter 89. Whose darkness is it today? The same is happening in your modern times. And now among you there are many scribes and Pharisees who do evil while being aware of it, by not allowing man to stretch out under a heavy burden of taxation, under the oppression of dead rituals and dogmas, even though their shining outer world testifies to the fact that they do not shoulder this very same burden themselves with those to whom they are addressing their nice words. By their double life between their words spoken out aloud about my and the Father's love and truth, and the example of their real daily life, they erect an enormous dead abyss that separates them not just from all of you, but also from me and the Father, who is also within each of them. Only they do not discover the Father, and due to that they behave in this manner. This is the sort of modern scribes and Pharisees who are also your religious and political leaders, the owners and heads of newspapers, religious and political leaders, and owners of television companies who present to you the strings of nice words, but they do not live up to these same words themselves. Therefore, they have a multitude of barriers and guards, so that you, whom they teach every day, could not approach them. And they teach you not because they have felt the Father's love within themselves, or because they have opened up to me, but rather because of their desire to be influential and powerful, and that they would have something to boast about before others, and primarily within themselves. And the arena where they are supposed to discover the Father, where they are supposed to feel the vibrations of the Father's love, they give the whole of their inner arena of low vibrations of their ego, for their fake selves to dominate their true selves bestowed by the Father. Therefore, their true selves cannot in any way experience the living water of the Father's love. Their souls are thirsty for this very same living water that your souls drink, yet they do not allow their own souls to get refreshed by the water of the Father's love that is already within them. And their actions are interrelated. Politicians make such decisions that are in favor of merely small groups of men, and the laws that all must abide by are not valid to these groups, for there is no force within the state to make them adhere to these laws. When there is a struggle between the ego of one's own self and the ego of a divine self, the struggle is won by the lower ego. If there is no sincere relationship with the Father, if primarily there is no striving for the enlightenment of one's own self, and if there is no desire to become similar to the Father, then the upper hand is always taken by a lower and material animal mind that shall always dictate such decisions which by all means possible shall fawn upon other self-deceiving and fake minds and selves controlled by similar low vibrations, and they will draw each other by the similar low vibrations. Then they get united and grouped and begin to think as to how they might satisfy their interests irrespective of the cost to others. The interests of politicians are to seek favorable conditions for their political parties in order to achieve power, while the interests of the owners of the newspapers are to have their own influence and to satisfy their interests by means of generating profits. Therefore, low vibrations of their consciousness emanate only such energy that allows their mind to make such decisions, which are useful to their own ego only. A compromise is possible only up to a certain limit that their mind is capable of perceiving. But once this limit is reached, then either a split is taking place or any methods are being applied that endanger the elimination of the meeting of their interests. It was particularly because of this that the Pharisees crucified me, since I was posing that greatest danger for satisfying the interests of their own ego. And in modern times, any bright idea, any spiritual manifestation does not find any, even the smallest path to either the newspaper pages, radio, television, government, or any other institution controlled by money and power, if this light and spirit manifestation might pose some threat for meeting their selfish interests, both personal and group interests. And your priests, television and radio, do not teach you in what way to find love and light within, how to discover the Father in your own selves, to be able to experience that you are one and divine family, that your suffering and pain shall end only after the owners and leaders of the press, radio, and television companies, politicians, and religionists shall discover the Father within themselves. This will not happen simultaneously, but be certain it shall happen all the same. And it will happen much sooner than the majority of you think. And this teaching of mine is also meant to expand your views on the environment and yourselves, and by this to make its own contribution to your decision, each of yours, on discovering the Father within, irrespective of who you are at the moment, a politician, a priest, a teacher, a journalist, a businessman, an athlete, a father, a mother, a son, a daughter, young, old, healthy, or sick. Therefore, all this teaching is meant for the purpose that the Father's love and light would evermore draw back the curtain of darkness, which at the present time does not let the soul see the Father's light.